Right, thank you, everyone. And what I'd like to do today is go through what we've been doing over the last 3 years in building the Mindat library. So officially, it's the Rock H Currier Digital Library. I think we all know who Rock Currier was and how important he was to Mindat. And obviously, the idea of naming the library for Rock was fairly obvious based on his significant contributions both during his lifetime and afterwards for Mindat. But also it was really the idea came upon me whilst I was at Rock Currier's house dealing with his estate, looking at the library which we had essentially inherited, his whole garage full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books and journals, thinking there must be a better way of dealing with this information than just having it in boxes or having it scattered in people's homes or offices around the world. At least not be able to have a decent index of it. So those were the starting points for building the references system. And I think what I'll do now, I'll go over to screen sharing and we will start playing around with it. So you should be able to see that now. I'm assuming, is the aspect ratio look okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Right, okay, so Mindat. So what I'm logged in at the moment as essentially a regular level 2 user. Now, that means that a lot of the admin functions are deliberately not shown here. So some things I won't be able to do, and I'll have to talk about those. But I wanted to show you more along the basis of what regular users and some of the functions I'm showing level 1 users can do as well. It's not just for level 2. Also, yesterday we had a bit of a problem where we accidentally killed the search index database, and so Ryan's been very eagerly rebuilding that. So there are some things where the search results aren't actually bringing up everything that they should be at the moment, but there's enough there for us to do this demo, so there's not a problem. It's actually on its way to being recovered pretty well, and you probably wouldn't even notice that there was a problem unless you go looking for it. Okay, so at the moment, to find the library, there are 2 ways of doing it. Now, firstly, it's hidden, and its reason it's hidden is because up until now we've not really done a hard push launch for it. It's been hidden in the background on the Learn page, the Rock H Currier Digital Library, and this is the landing page, the introductory page for the library, showing some of the new content here. But you'll also find links to items within the library within the pages on every other page on Mindat that's got references. All of that now links into content here. So let me talk very briefly about what the structure of the library is, what it contains. And what we can see here, these are latest downloads. These are, for example, here, if I click on this item here, this is Mercian Geologist, which is a journal published by the East Midlands Geological Society here in the UK. And this is an issue. So it's all structured. Each type of item has like a reference type. So this is a type of issue. Within that, there can be articles. And the issue can be standalone, or it can be within a volume, or within a series. So there's multiple different ways that it can be arranged, but different types of objects can be found in the library. Each type of object can have files associated with it as well. So here we actually have the download file linked to it in 2 different ways. We've got the download URL here, which is the link to the official download on the publisher's website. So in most cases, that would be where you would go because they are providing it, and really it should be better to get it from them. If you are logged in as a level 1+ user, you can also, if we have it available within the site, view the download directly on the site. Now, we have it on the site because we want to index it. This is really important. The whole purpose of this is to be building up this index. So in this case, we can click on view, and here we have the actual journal. Now I'm going to set it back to 100% width. So this is a PDF file that we can now view within the browser. Now this PDF viewer, which I didn't build it. It was built by the Firefox people, but very, very powerful. It's got the ability to view page thumbnails here. Obviously, as I showed you, can change the zoom ratio. You can search within it, which is really good. And on the options here, on the tools, you can do page spreads, which is really handy to be able to, and let's just do page fit. So now you can view pages side by side, scroll through. You can, where it's been OCR'd, you can copy and paste. So if you've got something that needs translating, you can't do it yet directly in here, but you can copy the paste here, then copy the text here, paste it into a translator, and see what you've got. So yeah, this is the PDF viewer, and we'll come back to that as we look at some other things later. But not everything has a file associated with it, because the whole purpose of this, if I go back to the top journal record, so I click on the journal title, it takes me back to this top level. We call it the entire run for the journal. And so the purpose of this is to try and build up a structured index of the journals, books, articles, and other information that may be of interest to us. And in this case, we've got the volumes. Inside the volumes, we have the issues. And I think if we go back to volume 16 here, if we go to issue 3, we have inside that, there's an actual individual article. So in this case, the PDF is for an individual article rather than the entire issue. And whether we put up the PDFs as the entire issue or separate PDFs for each article is generally down to what's available rather than any particular rule. And in some cases, we'll have both just for convenience. So in this case, what I've been doing is where the article has already been referenced on Mindat, then we will, I've put up the PDF for the separate article. So yes, talking about this. This is a record type that we call a reference. It's a record relating to an individual, in this case, article in a journal. And we have the information here about the authors, the year, the page, etc., etc. And excuse me. Underneath here, we have a list of pages on Mindat that use them. Now, each of these links here will link to an individual mineral page or a locality page or a locality entry page where this particular article has been cited as a source of information on that particular item. Now, these records, the record that links the reference to another page on Mindat, we call it the reference citation records. So one reference record can have multiple citation records linking it to different things. And that's quite important because in some cases, you might have a 20-page article and a reference citation for mineral fluorite, for example, may be on page 3 of that article, and it might mention galena on page 6. So you would want the details for the citation to be different for each one. So the details say this is on page 3 for the fluorite, and this one's on page 6 for the galena. So let's just go to one of these pages here. Let's go to the mineral pudding stone. And you'll see here, actually, this page is not being regenerated, so that's not a good choice. Let's go to what I originally scripted. Let's go to Wheel Gorland, one of my favorite localities. So here's the page for Wheel Gorland, and now if we click on the references here, you'll see now we have the list of references, which now each of those is now a link to the reference page on Mindat. Now you'll see, obviously, there are two different formatting styles here. And that's because there are two different types of reference that we have, which is our structured reference, which is what I've been showing you, where we have the information divided down. So we have the authors, the year, the publisher, all of those details separated out so they can be linked together. But we've also got 450,000 old references imported from before we started this system, which are just as a standard text string. So something like this here is just a string of text. Now, actually, this one here, I think this page is out of date. I suspect this one here I've already imported earlier today and converted it back to the correct reference. If I click on that, you'll see now it's a structured reference, and it's actually, you got the page there, and we got a download URL to be able to click directly to view the file from Rough, who have a copy of the PDF. But in this case, we don't have the PDF ourselves. And here's all the pages and mineral occurrences that are associated with that article. Now, this is something we were never able to do directly on Mindat before, to be able to go and look at an individual reference and say, what are we using that reference for? What pages are associated with it? And so, as you can see, this one reference has been very extensively used for all of these localities, for these 3 mineral species, and for these mineral occurrences here. So just to clarify the interface on this, the interface here works similar to how it works in other parts of the site, so that when you click on the I in the circle, the information, that goes to the actual lock entry page, which is the information about budentite from this particular mine, whereas the mineral name just clicks to the mineral page. So just be careful if you're trying to find the particular occurrence information to click the I, not the mineral name. But that works the same as it does on other pages on Mindat, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Underneath, we see similar references as well. So everywhere that we can, we have this list of see also references underneath it. And as you can see here, it's mostly articles by the same people, the infamous Arthur Kingsbury, and from the Mineralogical magazine in most cases, but all similar reports. The system's pretty good at being able to figure out just by the wording what things are similar to others. So the things that you can see within these links here, and these are consistent throughout the site. The thumbnail here gives you an idea whether we have the content indexed. So if it's got a little picture here like a thumbnail, then we've got the content indexed. That doesn't automatically mean that we have content that can be downloaded. It simply means that the content has been available for us to index. It doesn't mean we necessarily have the right to share it. The PDF icon at the end, on the other hand, means that there is a download PDF link available from either the publisher or some other source to directly get that PDF. And that's open to everyone, regardless of whether you're logged in or not. That's just a standard item here. So as you can see, you can even click on it here. If you look at the URL at the bottom, it shows you that PDF in these cases are downloadable from the rough website. So one of my tasks is to slowly find the missing content for these no image ones and have those indexed as well so they can be searched.
Colleen, on that one, it looks like they're duplicates.
In this list, are there duplicates?
Yeah, the Kingsbury one that you had right below it. The
The second to last and third from last.
Second to last, yes. This one here is a duplicate. Now that did actually, yeah. So this did actually happen with, and yeah, there's some duplicates here. I believe it's only Mineralogical Magazine that's affected, and it's because these were some of the very earliest ones to be imported. As you can see, the ID there is 3973. I think literally the first thing I did was to try and import the Mineralogical Magazine. And then there was an attempt to merge another import of it based on the DOI records. And it didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't quite go right. And I think it's because there are some slight differences in formatting. And it's just I just need to write a routine to go through. I think the DOIs are consistent and merge them. But yeah, those are duplicates that need fixing, and I haven't got around to it yet. But that can all be done automatically. I'll show you some of the other merging where I don't know if we can pick one of these. Let's try that one.
I don't think you have.
Right. So this particular one, the rediscovery of Churchite in Cornwall, you'll see here what we have are two links here, which are the plain font links, which are the unstructured references. So these two here in particular should be well, I mean all three of them obviously, but these can be merged into this. And that's saying I can't do in the account that I'm logged in at the moment. But the idea is that I merge those into this record here. And I've been going through trying to sort of blitz through as much of that as I can. But that's a process that's going to take a long time to particularly where we've got half of a reference here. So something's happened here where the rest of the reference got lost. It might have been there was a carriage return put in at the wrong place in a file, or he just got truncated by some data entry in the past. We had so many references. There's so many things that have gone wrong in them. And fortunately, in this case, it's very easy to match this one up. We know 1956, we've got this title. That is this. We don't need to worry about it. And in this case here, yep, again, it's the same. I mean, there's so many different variations in the way that the text references have been put in the past. So here we've got vol 31, number 234. In others, we have just a volume number or volume number in brackets and an issue number, which is not necessarily the same as that number. So a lot of it needs careful work in just confirming that the actual references that we're trying to combine are the same. But yes, going back to, as I was saying, that we want to index the content for searching. I think it's quite important to go through the searching tools on the site. I'm just going to go back, start us afresh from here and show how the search works. So if we do, for example, a search for Cornwall, then we're bringing up here items that have got the word Cornwall in them. So it has exact matches where this is the title of a book is Cornwall. And that's important because if you want to go, for example, Journal Russell Society, then the top match there is the journal top level page. And now we can go down and we can see here. I think it's probably worth mentioning because before we go too far on the search, the actual scale of what we have here. Now, I did prepare a stats page because it takes a while to generate. There are currently 16 million records in the references database, of which 461,000 of them have PDFs linked. Or actually, no, that's not correct. There are 461,000 PDFs linked to them. Some records have more than one PDF. Now, the indexing, as I mentioned yesterday, we had a problem. So we're only at 21% through the indexing of those PDFs at the moment. So when I'm doing my searching now, you'll only see about 20% of the results that you would normally see. But it's still enough to get a good idea of how the system works. And within a day or two or three, that will all be back to normal. So we've got 567,000 PDFs yet to be indexed, according to this. And to break down here, it shows that 14.9 million are journal articles. We've got 8,600 books. We've got 14,000 reports. 42,000 report issues. So that includes things like the USGS bulletins, bulletins from mining, mining institutes, etc. 103 videos and 500 catalogs lists. That's actually quite a good one because I'll show you that in a minute because I think it's a very important thing for us on Mindat to be able to archive old dealer catalogs. And that's what we've been doing here. So let's go back. Actually, I'll leave this one. Go back here. Let's go back here. Russell Society. Each of these here, we actually have the journal available to view. So we have the whole run of what they have made publicly available of the journal here. So at the moment, we have it just listed at the volume level. They did this weird thing where they switched from doing a volume with issues to just then only doing a single issue for volume and then just calling the issue the volume. But that's fine. We cope with that. But we can have what we will be doing over time is adding the individual article records underneath. And in many cases, that's when we already have them listed as a reference on Mindat. And then it's just a matter of moving them from that plain text record into the structured place where it belongs here. Alternatively, if anyone wants to do this and has got time, they can look for a journal, say, aha, there's no articles listed here. I'm going to click view. And this will be a little bit longer because it's a larger PDF. Oh, it's not too bad. Go down to the contents page. Look, here I've got all my articles and I can copy paste each of these and add them as a new article. Hey, what? Let's do one. Let's do one right now. So let's take this very first one. And what I'm going to do is copy that paper. And there's a thing here, click here to add an article. So this is adding an article within this volume. Now, remember, this is just a single issue volume, so we don't want to add an issue first. So here's the form for adding a new reference. So I'm going to paste the article title in there. I'm going to take the names of the authors. and you can paste them individually here, or because I'm lazy, I don't like having lots of work, I've had a paste option here. So you paste that string into here, and then you select which format matches that. Now, in this case, it's this first one. It's first name, last name, separated by commas. So I select that, and now it's split them all up properly in our reverse format in the authors table there. So all we now need to do is go back and pages 3 to 23. Page 3 to 23. And that's it. That's done. And now save it. And now we have that record within it. Now, I don't know if we click on there. Yes, we already have plenty of, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, however many it is, of existing references linking to it. So when I'm logged in as myself later, I will go back and merge all those into here. And then all of these entries, wherever they are within the site, will then be linked back correctly to this. Also, it will show you here that in files that the download file for this item is included in this volume. So we don't have the PDF for this individual article, but this will alert you to the fact that you just need to go up a level and you can view the entire, in this case, issue as a single PDF, if we haven't bothered to split them. So that was just a very rapid idea of how quick it is to add an entry here. And let me get back to the searching, which we're a little bit distracted from. So I did a search for Cornwall. It came up here with all of these, but let's be more specific. Let's go to advanced, and we can change the type. So we want this to be just journal articles. And we do search. And now we have a list of just journal articles. And we can do things like a date range. So let's just do it from 1980 to 2020. And now we have only more modern articles coming up. So let's reset that. Actually, there's one thing I haven't got here, and I need to do is have a reset button for the search. I mean, you can just click Library Home. That's one way of doing it, but there probably should be a reset button on there. Let's try Wheel Gorland. Let's do something more specific and do a search. So we have a lot of references here. As you can see, most of them are web references or even partial references. So we don't have much for Wheel Gorland itself. Most of these are other mines, Wheel Made, Wheel Tavas. So because it wasn't able to do a good match against Wheel Gorland, it's coming up with other things that relate to Cornish mines. So it's not necessarily the results that you want, because these are all different things. However, the results that you do want are coming up at the top. Now, as we start adding in more of the article content within things like the journals that we're talking about, these will, like the UK Journal of Mines and Minerals, then you'll find more articles for Wheel Gorland coming up. But what we can do is search the full text content. Now, as we said, we're only 23 or whatever it is % through indexing everything, so we won't see everything. But now, if I do that, we get a lot more useful results coming up, because now we're finding where Wheel Gorland is listed within existing records. And as we see, we got a lot of these mineral lists coming up here. So 1973 Richard Barstow mineral list, some articles, another 1977 list. So obviously, Richard Barstow sold a lot of stuff from Gorland. And of course, books. So we have the famous Minerals of Cornwall and Devon book here by Embry and Symes. And we have a little extract here, which again doesn't actually show the word Gorland here, but I know it is referring to Wheel Gorland. And we click on that. we've got the book here. This is one that I have merged in, I believe, all of the existing reference entries into it. So we do have a nice distribution of localities and mineral occurrences related to the book. And the see also here, the first one is actually a review of the, actually the first two are reviews of the book, first three. And then there's other related or similar books coming up underneath it. So one of the important reasons for doing this is that, assuming that we have data completely entered, which is going to take a long time to do, it should be very easy in the future to see if a particular article has been used already to enter data for Mindat. And if we pull up this book, if I pull this book off my bookshelf and say, do I need to add the references on to Mindat from this book? I can look at this list and say, no, I don't. Someone has already done it. Now, just because there's an absence of information there doesn't mean it hasn't been added. It may simply be that we haven't linked it together at the moment. But I would say if you see a significant amount of information linked to an entry, then it's a good indication that that entry has already been gone through by someone, probably David. In most cases, he's done so much of this. So go back to advanced search here, search for full text. The other thing we can do is only viewable, which is now it will only bring up the results where there is a downloadable or viewable PDF available for us to look at. So in this case, let's have a look at one of these mineral lists, and we can see the list here and we can view it. And we should be able to do a search here and do Gorland. And yes, so now we can see 3 matches. And we have our references to real Gorland within the list here. And maybe more usefully, you can do things like Kleiner Clay's Gorland. And now we can, sorry, let's do full text, I should have done. And now, ideally, we should be able to find things where you've got Kleiner Clay's and Gorland listed together. Okay, so we've got this here. The mineral lists are coming up together. Again, Embry and Syme's book, of course. Minerals newspaper. Again, all of those are input and scanned in to the system. Gorland will be on here, presumably. Oh, it's me. It's an article by me. Well, there's a surprise. My favorite locality is real Gorland, as I just told you. Yes. Oh, that's one of my specimens there. The other thing, you see this search inside minerals newspaper only. Once you are in a record, then if that record is a journal or a series of reports or a book series, then you'll get this search inside option coming up. And this should work. I actually only really fixed this. It was a bit unreliable until today. I fixed it today, I think. So if we want to search within this minerals newspaper for, let's search for Stregon, because I know that will be in there. Full text, of course. Forgot to do that. Yes. So again, I haven't put the individual articles in here. We've only just got the issues. So searching the reference name is not going to do much within these journals yet, because we haven't put those individual references in. But searching the full text will. So that will help on this case. So yeah, 2 issues where it talks about Stregon. other ways that we can explore this. As I mentioned, we have the latest downloads. You can scroll through. You can see here I started adding in the Mercian geologist here. And I was going to do a demonstration of how I would add in one from their website. So maybe let's just quickly do one of those, because I think it's a good idea. There are so many places where PDFs are available online of things that are interesting for mineralogists or geologists. The problem is, unless you know where they are, or you know that they exist, that's not very helpful. I didn't know this journal existed until yesterday, but now I do, and it is quite interesting. So I have here their website. Their website has a whole archive of the issues, all available for download, which is great, but we want to add them into Mindat so we can index them. Now, how far have I got? I got to volume 5. I've completed. This was just an outlier, which I did earlier. So I'm going to do volume 6. So first thing we do is we need to add the volume. Now, first of all, let's check what year it is, because it's a little bit complicated with here. They have issues for a volume for more than 1 year. So volume 6 here, MG06, 1976. It actually goes to 78, but it starts in 76. So I'm going to add a volume, year 1976, volume 6, wasn't it? Yes. And save. That's all I need to do. And it's now created that volume. I can now click on the volume, and now I can add in individual issues. So let's add in an issue. And I go back to here. So 6, let's copy the link for this. Go back to here. I paste the link into the file URL, and that's the link to the PDF. Then I copy option. How do we copy it onto the website? So there are various options depending on whether it is something that's available for all members, which is what we would in this case, or whether there's no public access. Now, no public access means essentially the PDF is scanned, indexed, but is not archived on Mindat for people to be able to download. So that's so that we can index things, but we don't have the permission to share it. Now, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure whether we have permission to share this or not, but let's assume for the moment that we do. And I click all members, and I forgot to put the issue number in, put issue number 1. We've got the year, issue, all members, and I do save. Now, what it's doing now is it's connecting to that server. It's pulled in the PDF. It's generated the thumbnail image. Everything is there, so that now can be viewed. Now, if for whatever reason you think that's too slow, there's an even faster way of doing it. So let's go and do issue 2, which is 1977. Copy the link address, paste that in, and I do async all members. And that's 1977. And now you'll see it's added the record, but the file hasn't been copied off. There's actually a task running in the background now to copy that file in the background. This is really good if you're copying things from slower websites. I mean, I think sometimes US Geological Survey can be very slow in downloading files, particularly if it's a large, several hundred megabyte file, and you don't want to have to sit there waiting and waiting and waiting for that file to download. So if you do the async option, it will copy it over for you. And if I just refresh that, yeah, it's completed, and there it is. So now we've added 2 issues there into the system, and those will now get indexed within the next. They're already indexed. They should already be indexed within the reference title search, because that should be done automatically. But the text content of the PDFs will be indexed on our sort of normally on a sort of hourly schedule where it adds in the new PDFs. Actually, is it hourly? I can't remember what the cron is, Ryan, but
Every 10 minutes, actually.
Actually, every 10 minutes. Okay, oh, even better. So every 10 minutes, it tries to add 100 or whatever it is, scanning PDFs. So it will catch up and index those very quickly. Obviously, at the moment, we're doing the rebuild of everything, so that's not going to happen right now. But normally, those would be indexed very quickly. As I say, the title should be indexed immediately. So adding content from other sites is pretty straightforward. And it might be also, if I go back to the edit page here, it might be that you don't have a download link, but you've actually got a physical PDF on your computer. And you can do the add file button here to add a file directly. And you select a file. I'm just going to select a screenshot at random here. And then you can add the file. You have to select the document type. Let's call this a media file, permission level. And then you can upload it. Now, or there's some quick upload options here. If it's a standard file, or if it's available for all their members or no access, or if it's cover artwork. So if this image here, you can, if this image here doesn't look right, you can replace it with a different image if you prefer. So actually, let's just try that. And then I'll upload the file. And now we have ruined this entry by putting the wrong image on it, which lets me show you another thing here. You see on the files list here, you may, if you've got level, I think it's level 2 access, but it may even be level 1. I'll have to check what it is. But anyway, if you've got access to edit the record, you'll see this option here, pick, which means you can choose the thumbnail picture. So I click on that pick, and what it's doing here is it's just given us a box that represents the first 4 pages. Now, it doesn't load in the previews automatically because that can take a long time. But if I just click on those 4, it's now loading in the content for each of those pages. There's an option here to crop. Sometimes it has a white border around it that doesn't belong. So you'll need to choose the crop option if you're doing that. And it shouldn't really make any difference on this. And I click that now, and now it's replaced our thumbnail with the correct one. Now, often if you've got like an older volume where the actual front cover is just a blank page, a blank cover, you'll need to go in. Often it's usually page 5 or 7, I found in a PDF, is the best place to start for the cover, which is why you click on this. You do add 4 more pages. You click, is it page 7? You do the preview there, and you go, oh yeah, that's our title page. Click there. So these tools have developed because I've been using them a lot, and I've tried to develop them in a way that is efficient to use. So go back to the home page, and we have our 2 issues there already. Okay, last thing. I mentioned we got 4,000 plus books in the system. We also have the ability now to view them in bookshelves format. And the most sensible way is probably the DDC layout, which is the Dewey Decimal System, which is one of the 2 systems used by libraries worldwide. The other type is the Library of Congress layout, which we have here. But the DDC layout works better with the content that we've got at the moment because I haven't finished this really, and I'll explain that in a second. So here we have our bookshelves, and we can go through all the different categories here. Now, you might think, why have we got religions? Why have we got all of these arts and recreations and literature? There are all sorts of odd things that are in the library for reasons where there's some vague connection, or it's just something that might be useful, or it's just something that I thought would be fun to have in the library. We don't have any limitations really in space. We don't have physical shelves that we need to take care of. So yes, there are some books here which are of marginal interest for mineralogists. But I mean, we have, for example, scanned in the entire run, I think, pretty much of National Geographic magazine. Now, you can't give those away these days, and certainly no one would want to have the shelf space to store them all. But having them digitally store them is really useful, because if you're doing research on a locality and you've got some weird locality from the 1920s, maybe, just maybe, you'll find a reference to it in a journal like National Geographic. So having that all on here is useful. So if we go through the books, let's click on 500 to 599, Natural Sciences and Mathematics. So we've got Chemistry, Crystallography and Mineralogy. Click on that, and we can go to Crystallography. And now we have our basically our different subdivisions here, but essentially the shelving here. These are all the books that we have here within the shelves. Now, the light background, the white background, means that the PDF is downloadable. The gray background means we have it indexed, but no, it's not downloadable. There is no download available. Now, I'm hoping over time we might even get to the position where we can get people to donate the copyright of books to Mindat, as we have with Rudy Zernick donated the copyright of Zeolites of the World, or just to make them open access so that we can make them available and not have necessarily, we don't need to own the copyright. And then more of these things will become available over time. But as you can see, we have a lot of stuff here, a lot of scientific works relating to crystallography. And in many cases, I've tried to collect information on editions as well. This is useful, particularly if you're looking at things like the Dana books, where we have references from different editions. So having each edition as a separate record is very important. And also the structure needs to be flexible, because in some cases we have a book that has multiple volumes and an edition might have different volumes, like with Dana. In other cases, the actual volumes themselves have different editions. So the volume has volume 1 might only have 2 editions, whereas volume 2 might have had 4 editions. And so volume 1, the second edition, is still the most recent. So we have to be able to cope with all of those things in our structure, and we do. So here's, as I say, we have this particular book here. As you can see, there's no download for this, but we have all of the chapter information within this. View by type. I talked about the fact that we've got a lot of journals and things in here. Just to give you an idea, you can click on a list of journals. So there are 248 journals listed here in the system already. That's just for A. Now, we pull in references where even if there is a tangential connection with what we want. Why is the Australian Journal of Zoology in here? Because it is referenced within one or more paleontological articles. And although we haven't done a full import yet of the paleontological data that we have with it from the Paleo BioDB into the new references, the aim is to prepare it so we can. So there is a lot of information here where there are things, atmospheric research, where there are articles that are connected. There might be just some reference within one article that we've got referencing another journal. It doesn't take up any real space for us to store them, so we do. And so we can click on, I don't know, M for mineralogy, and let's have a look at 189 M's. Oh, there's a broken thumbnail I'll fix later. Material sciences, computational mathematics, things which are useful for some of the work that I'm doing, down to things which are not scientific journals, like the Meta Guide magazines here, which are the Metaphysical Guide to the Tucson Show. Now, that's actually one of the better show guides and listings of events and vendors that have been at the Tucson over the years. So this is useful historical information that we have in our archive now. And I had a lot of these as printed copies. And now that I've got the PDFs in the system, I've literally just thrown them out. There's no point keeping them anymore. So I hope that gives you some idea. I mean, it's really, we're only really scratching the surface of what we have here. But I hope that gives some idea of what the reference library is capable of. I don't know if anyone has any questions at this point or comments.
I would say that when you're adding new stuff, if you go in and get the format in BibTeX, you can copy it in there and it will you don't have to break the thing up. It automatically breaks things down.
That's right. So, yeah, if you've got it, for example, from Google Scholar, then the BibTeX format will import directly, and that will work nicely for filling in the fields. Alternatively, it's a modern reference and it has a DOI, then that can be imported directly from the DOI. Although in both ways, you have to think about at least where it is being linked to in the hierarchy. So if you've got the latest issue of Rocks and Minerals, for example, and you want to enter in an article that is in the latest issue of Rocks and Minerals, let me just pull that up just to show you what I'm talking about. So we have indexed, I believe now, everything from volume 1 to volume 98 of, to volume 96 of Rocks and Minerals. I don't think we've indexed the more recent stuff yet. Doesn't look like we have. So that's another job that needs to, actually, no, there's some missing as maybe it's missing. No, it isn't missing. It's just in, we haven't got the issue thumbnails. That's all for that. But let's say you've got the latest issue of Rocks and Minerals and you want to add in an article. So you've got the July issue. We already have the articles there. Now, how are we doing that? Who's been entering those in? Now, the great news is these are being added in automatically by the system in the background. It's got an ISSN number here. And what that means is that if the journal has an ISSN number and they publish DOI records, then it will automatically scrape on a regular basis what new articles, what new issues have been published for this magazine. So if it was something like Rocks and Minerals, I would say, don't add it, just wait. It might be within a day or two that it gets added in automatically and you don't need to worry about adding it. However, if you have added it and you've added the DOI record in, which is important, then it won't duplicate it. It will recognize that it's been done manually and it will skip over it. But it is important if you are adding, if say, for example, you had the September issue and the September issue hasn't been added, and you wanted to add an article, it's really quite important to make sure you come to this page, the volume for volume 98, you add the issue for issue 5, and then you add the article within that. Otherwise, you're going to have the record there, which will have all the correct details, but it will be orphaned from it, which will mean that some of the things, like, for example, the search inside Rocks and Minerals option will not work for it. It will not find that. So it has to be there within the right structure. And also then it loses the ability to be browsed through this, the hierarchy. So, I mean, it's not a huge thing. And in some cases, you might be adding in an article where we haven't added the journal yet. you can go and add a whole brand new journal. That's easy to do. The same way you do everything else. Go to here, type, add journal entire run, and then you'd put the journal name, and the publisher is pretty much the compulsory information for it. If there's place of publication, but you don't need to put things like year or anything else in, because that will obviously can be filled in automatically. So if you want to add in a new journal that we haven't already got, you can do that. Obviously, search for it first, make sure we haven't already done it. If you've literally just added a reference and you've imported it from a bib text or a DOI and it's sitting there as an orphan record, it's probably not a huge issue because I can find them and fix them. I haven't got a maintenance routine for doing that yet, but it's something that I absolutely will do. And then I or someone else will move them into the right place later. All it's doing there is that's generating more work for me and the other people who are maintaining the library. So I would prefer it, if you can, to put them in the right place. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, I think that pretty much absolutely bang on time wraps up our hour. Thank you all for coming. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to start exploring and digging and seeing what you can get. And obviously, anyone who wants to contribute information, please give it a go. If you're having problems with doing that, then contact me. I'm more than happy to work with you and figure out what's going wrong. But I look forward to seeing the library grow. Okay, right. Thank you. I think I'll stop the recording. I'll find the right button. Stop the sharing. And